over and above the required ratio that the city of Omaha requires. As far as the buffer yard to the south, we have a 30-foot buffer yard to the south and a 15-foot buffer yard along the west and also along the north, and I believe along the eastern boundary here as well. There is a green corner provided in an outlot, so that will be pursuant to the mixed-use requirements under the Urban Design Code and the master plan. There's also called for ornamental fencing that will be constructed along the entire site of the apartments. As far as along the south side, there's a couple different things that we can do. We can either reconstruct the wooden fences that the residential neighbors want, if they'd like that. We could also build a code-compliant fence here, which is more of an open type fence, or you could have a wood fence that's on the interior buffer yard. So that's all part of the PUD. And again, this is developed as a planned unit development, so what you see is what you get. If there's any major changes here, we have to come back to Planning Board and Council, and so that's also for the protection of the neighborhood and to make sure that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. There are three outlots. There's outlot A, again, we talked about that, which is the green corner. There's an outlot here, and then there's an outlot that is for the drainage way and the proposed roadway system. As far as access is off of Ida Street here in this location, and the developer understands and recognizes that when and if Ida Street is reconstructed or improved, that there will be a median constructed, and that will be limited to a right-in, right-out at that location. The other access is at this location here on off of North 154th Street onto Curtis Avenue, which then goes up to 156th Street. There is another stub-in street maybe it's easier if I show you on this larger aerial. So this is North 154th Street. Of course, this is Ida up here. And then there's another stub-in street. And these streets are already stubbed in to provide for continued access through this particular property when it is developed. And of course, this will be developed as part of the first phase of this development. So this shows the street systems and the connectivity of this property in relationship to the Stone Creek subdivision. The other stub in up here is on Newport Avenue, and that's with phase 2, of course, when you have the 17 single-family houses or lots coming online sometime in the future. There is no direct access onto 156th Street. That is restricted, but 156th Street will be improved. Currently, it's a 3-lane section from the intersection of Ida and 156 to about this location, and with this particular project, it will be constructed to a 3-lane section all the way to meet the 3-lane section here. So they'll fill that gap. So you'll have a 3-lane section road from Ida Street all the way south, which will be a vast improvement to 156th Street to provide for access. As far as the current access until this street is connected, there are temporary turnarounds at this location and at this location, so cars that come in here that are not coming into the apartment complex can make a safe turnaround and exit on either side of the development. There was a technical memorandum or a traffic study that was done, and it was primarily to see if traffic signal was warranted at 156th and Curtis. And what the traffic study revealed is that it's not currently warranted, but it suggested that we continue to monitor that intersection to determine whether a traffic signal would be warranted in the future. I did want to point out that we did have 3 neighborhood meetings. 2 were relatively large neighborhood meetings. I would say there was probably 150 to 200 people that were present at that meeting. I think Councilmember Melton was there at both of those. There was about 5.5 hours worth of meetings between those 2 meetings. And then we had a smaller group with the SID attorneys, SID board, and the HOA board as well. And what we were able to do as a result of those meetings and taking their input and listening to their concerns is we were able to originally I can just show you here. Originally, the trash compactor was further to the south, and then also these buildings were also further to the south. And what we were able to do is relocate the trash compactor from the south up here to the north to get it further away from the neighborhood. And then also we were able to move these two buildings to more of a north-south configuration, so less of the structure would be seen. You'd only be looking really at the sides of the building and not the broad face of the building. And also we moved these two buildings 85 feet further to the north, so the buildings are now 125 feet from the property line to the south. As far as the elevations, this is what the structures look like. They measure 35 feet in height to the midpoint of the roof line, which is the measurement under the code. It has cement, fiberboard, siding, stone, and composite type shingles. And we think it will be a nice look and a nice product. We did work with the planning department with respect to the architectural materials and building materials for the buildings. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have and obviously respond to any opposition that might be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard on items 6 through 10? Any proponents?
Luis Jimenez, 3126 Chicago Street. I've been following this area since the previous owner sold the land when it was agriculture. I just want to add to the discussion that there's going to be a lot of people moving in here once the apartments are up and running, and I think that we shouldn't anticipate the motives of residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard?
Good afternoon. Christian Williams, 2425 South 144th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. I'm here on behalf of Domino Law Group, but more importantly, the SID 424, which is located directly south of the proposed development. I was here before this council during the preliminary plat discussion, in which the same, almost a near identical discussion that was proposed by the proponent was made, and I'm here to reassert the same objections that the SID made at that time. This development was proposed, and Mr. Jolin was correct that there were a couple of community meetings, and the SID and the HOA committees did meet in person at my office to discuss the concerns that were advocated by the SID. Now, from the SID's perspective, which is separate and apart from what HOA had to say that day, there was a couple of concerns that were made. Now, as Mr. Jobin noted, the biggest issue is that there was a traffic study done based on the fact that this development has essentially two arterial access points within the development. One's going to go out Ida, the other one's going to go out through Curtis to 156th Street. The technical memorandum that was discussed by Mr. Jobin concedes that the majority of the traffic is going to flow out through Curtis to 156th Street. And the reason is most people want to head south so they can go to work. Ida Street leads you out further east. There's no, I don't think there's a point of dissension about that, but based on that technical memorandum, both at public meetings and private meetings with the committee members, we advocated concerns of that traffic flow. And the couple reasons is that the SID itself is taxed with maintenance of that road, in addition to the utilities, trash collection, and so on, as our other SIDs that are in the area. We indicated to the Vantage Development that we would like them, as users of the roads of the SID, to contribute financially to their maintenance and upkeep. Repeatedly, the Vantage Development Group did not come up with a proposal of any kind whatsoever, just simply said no. We're asking this council to consider that they might be obligated to do that before you vote on this proposed development. The second issue is with that traffic, this is a young family neighborhood. When we were here last time before the preliminary plat discussion, there were a lot of young families that came down here. and discuss their concerns about all the traffic, in addition to zoning and other issues. But this is a young family with cul-de-sacs in their neighborhood where children played on the sidewalks and in the cul-de-sacs. We raised that concern as well with the traffic flow. People are inevitably going to speed out of that area. There's going to be traffic jams. There's going to be all sorts of traffic concerns that are obvious concerns of family members in that area. And with that, we asked them, the Vantage group, to contribute to try to slow down any traffic flow in that area with either speed bumps or something of the nature on their own. And the only proposal that we received from the Vantage Development is if you drop your other concerns, and this was speaking directly to the SID and the HOA collectively, it's something that we couldn't negotiate on our own because of the HOA's presence. If they put in a few speed bumps, which is relatively insignificant compared to the cost of this development, we had to drop the rest of our claims and our concerns. Obviously, the answer to that from the SID's perspective was no. And obviously, the other primary concern was what Mr. Jobin didn't indicate, and perhaps he can speak about that on his rebuttal, which he'll inevitably do, is that access point onto Curtis Street is restricted access, meaning only the apartment people get to use that road. So when people leave, the gate essentially closes. And so users of that neighborhood can't go up and use a private access point to get to Ida. They would still have to go out 156 to Ida. Now, I'm sure if the SID, having use and control of those roads, were to put up a reciprocal gate to restrict access to the apartment dwellers, there'd be a problem, whether it be through this council or somebody else. We think it's only fair from the SID's perspective that they grant reciprocal access. If they're going to take advantage of the roads, and they're not going to contribute to them financially, just like the neighborhood does, through the assessments that neighborhood, through the people that move there, voluntarily pay, Vantage shouldn't be able to benefit from that. And so those are the concerns I advocated here at the preliminary plat meeting that was before this council. I reiterate them again, and on that basis, the SID itself objects to the development, and we ask the council to vote no today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, does the proponents wish any rebuttal time?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, bringing on behalf of the applicant. I guess what I would say about that is I don't recall us saying that either drop all the complaints that you have, or we won't cooperate with putting in speed tables or speed bumps. We don't control the speed bumps or speed tables. Obviously, that's something that would have to be governed and dictated by the governing jurisdiction. I think in this particular case, the county would govern whether the speed tables or speed bumps could be installed, and we would be happy to help in the cost of those. I think we told them that. And we would continue to do that if they're in fact warranted. As far as the public street system, I think Public Works can testify about this as well. But this is a public street. You can't restrict the public from using a public street, obviously. Here is the proposed development, of course. This is Curtis Street. This kind of shows the entire street system within this particular neighborhood. Again, I think we're showing, I believe, at this point, about a 70-30 split between those traffic cars using Ida Street and those cars using Curtis Avenue. But Curtis Avenue was built as a collector street for this particular neighborhood. It was designed, and I think Public Works would agree with that concept, and Ryan Haas is here if you have questions about that. But clearly, Curtis Avenue has the capacity to take on the traffic that's generated from this development. Again, remember, this is low-density residential multifamily housing. This is 15 units an acre. That's always been considered low-density multifamily residential housing. So the impact on this neighborhood, the impact on the street system is negligible. So with that, I don't know what else to say about that other than we are also contributing to the street system. We're widening 156th Street in a gap from about here to here in a 3-lane section. Obviously, they're going to be able to use 156th Street, and we're contributing all the dollars necessary to widen 156th Street to a 3-lane section. It's how the city develops is through the use of sanitary and improvement districts and public streets and having streets that connect through neighborhoods as opposed to going out and using the arterials at every turn, as opposed to using connectivity within the neighborhood. Again, we have two streets that are already stubbed in, North 154th Street and Newport Avenue. That's why they were designed that way. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, I would probably encourage you to ask Public Works questions as well as far as the capacity of Curtis Avenue.
Thank you. That closes the public hearing. Ms. Melton.
Yes.
I do see that there's going to be increased traffic through that neighborhood. And I understand that no matter what on speed bumps, I can't authorize speed bumps. I don't have that ability, and neither do you.
Correct.
It does have to go through the county, but would you be willing to at least agree it is going to be your development that's going to create the additional traffic? Speed bumps don't cost that much. I don't know what the county does or how that works. I know the city pays for it when it's inside the city limits and they're authorized. I don't know how the county works with SIDs, if the SIDs are responsible for payment.
Usually the sanitary and improvement districts can pay for that, and in this particular case, I think we talked about, some kind of sharing arrangement. I'm not sure that 100% of the cause of the speed table or speed bump would be this particular project, but we would certainly agree to an equitable apportionment of the cost. I can't remember what they cost, like $15,000 or $20,000 or something for a speed table, but it's based upon traffic volumes and speeds and everything else, and I think they have to actually do a traffic study in order to determine whether they're warranted or not. And again, Ryan Haas can probably speak.
Right, and I'm sure they have to do a petition process for all the neighbors that live. I mean, they would be SAD
Right.
residents, and they'll have to do the petition. But in the event they do that, I would like you to at least put on the record that you will work with Mr. Williams, and that you would agree to at least split the cost with the SAD for the speed bumps if...
We have no objection to that.
Because obviously, if they meet the traffic count,
Yeah.
we do know that it's going to be at least half contributed to.
Right. We agree that we're going to have traffic using
Right.
those streets, so we're fine with that.
And then tell me a little bit, there was something about the road that you're doing is going to be cut off by a gate. Can you, and I don't know, the last photo you put up didn't show that, but.
This is maybe a little better. It's a black and white photograph, so you can see maybe the turnarounds a little more clearly.
Okay. Are you blocking off any public streets
No,
with gates?
the public street will not be blocked off. Obviously,
Okay.
everyone will have complete access to the turnaround to make it back up. So if you come down this public street in air, you have a turnaround here, and you can actually go back up and exit on
Well,
Ida.
is that eventually going to connect, though, into the neighborhood?
Yes, if you see, this is the phase 2. See that street coming in here? This part of the development is not being platted finally today. This will come in later into 17 lots. When that 17-lot subdivision comes online, this street will make the connection to Newport Avenue that we talked about, that's already stubbed in, and then of course there'll be a connection that comes along here too as well. So there'll be multiple street connections.
So eventually it'll all connect to public roads?
Absolutely, that's
Okay.
right. These are temporary turnarounds.
Okay. On the south side, you mentioned, and I know that Mr. Williams didn't mention this, but I do know it was would you agree to meet with those neighbors that go along just to maybe let them decide what kind of fence they want to have on their backyard?
We have no problem with that.
And I think you already know who they are and have
Yes.
been in contact.
Absolutely.
So I just want to have it on the
Yeah.
record that you'll do that and let them maybe make that decision. I mean, out of the three, do they
Right.
want A, B, or
Well,
C?
there's actually 4. The other one
Okay.
does not have a fence at all, which is also allowed. And I guess the question would be whether that's a minor amendment to the PUD or a major one.
Okay.
I would hope that would be a minor one, since it's,
I would hope
I
the
don't know,
fence.
well, I'm looking at Dave. The question would be whether it's a major amendment or a minor amendment, and which
Okay.
direction we'd want to go. If it was a major amendment, then of course we'd have to go back to planning board and this council to get a major amendment. But the only amendment that we would be talking about is the fencing along the south portion of this development.
Okay. I just, those are the things that I think were very important and that could be easily done if the traffic does call for that. And then, again, I know that there's probably doesn't have the traffic for the traffic light yet, but I think in the event the OPS bond passes and the new high school gets built, and we're going to have traffic that's not necessarily contributed to your project, but probably will eventually get to the point where we will need a light. So I guess I would just ask the SID, you know, you can request that, but we'll be watching that and monitoring that as well. Because we certainly want connectivity and we don't want traffic to back up. We just can't put a light in at this point until it, as we know with other streets, you have to have the federal warrants to merit the light that I think a number of council members up here are dealing with now. So as soon as we have that and can put it in, I think we would. Thank you, Mr. Jobin.
Thank you.
I do appreciate the time and the multiple meetings. I know that the neighbors still don't want the development in there, but I do appreciate the number of changes and the fact that you continue to meet, and I appreciate that there are things that you're still willing to do today. You know, I'm not really sure why. I would think that, and this isn't you, this is kind of just a comment, but if you have an SID and you have roads, when somebody builds right there, it almost seems like you should be a part of the SID. That doesn't work that way?
Well, it was never contemplated in this particular setup that it would be part of the SID. So, no, that's not contemplated.
I mean, it does make sense to me that, you know, when you have an SID and they're responsible and their taxes are paying for the street,
Right.
yet you're not contributing anything. I understand the law is kind of set up that way, but maybe there is something you could do and work with the SIDs because you are using those roads that just those citizens are paying for until Omaha annexes, you know, all of you,
Right.
and then we'll take care of your roads.
That's right.
But what I would like is you got at least 294 apartments, and that additional people using, you said about probably 70% using that road, and they are paying for the maintenance on that road. I think Douglas County is probably doing the snow removal. Is that right, Mr.
Douglas County,
Williams?
yes, Douglas County typically does.
You know,
snow
but
removal.
again, with the speed bumps and the maintenance and the things that maybe need to be done on that, I would hope that the owners of this would be willing to work with the SID in the event there is something that needs to be done.
I mean, we certainly can talk with them at this point. There's really no obligation to contribute, but that happens all over the city. You know, there's SIDs all over the city and in Douglas and Sarpy County, where there are collector roads that particular SIDs use that anyone can make that connection and go through them and use the public streets. They are public streets, and the public does have the right to use them. So, and it happens everywhere, you know, and the hope is that when they underwrote their SID, they did it in such a way that the valuation was there to support the debt that they issued, and I'm sure it is because it looks like it's completely built out. And obviously, the idea is to get in better and better financial conditions so that the city can annex them, and then it's clearly a public street that you know, just like now, everyone will continue to be able to use it. Just a matter of who's paying for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further lights. Is there a motion? Second. No further lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 6 through 10 are approved 7-0. Items 11 and 12 relate to the same project. Item 11, an ordinance to rezone the property located at 4014 and 4016 South 13th Street from GC District and CC District to R7 District. Item 12, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC District to incorporate into that district the property located at 4014 and 4016 South 13th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items numbers 11 and 12 are today. Proponents, please.
Hi, my name is Lanny Israel of 4014 South 13th Street. And also I bought the adjacent lot, which is 4016 South 13th Street. My intent at the time was, one, it's a residential home. I have 100 pictures of the artwork that I display in this building because it was an industrial building that was used as a bakery, a pharmacy, it was bars, so it doesn't look like your typical home. That's one of the reasons I was interested in it. I just moved back from Europe a year ago, after 20 years, and I wanted something unique that kind of spoke back to that. This building did that. However, there was no part of it that had any parking. In addition, the only little parcel of land that's under the CC zoning is the one that this building sits on in the entire neighborhood. It's the only one. Even though there's a gas station across the street, Zesto used to be across the street, Starsky's was across from me, and none of those buildings are listed as CC. So I raised the question with the planning committee, that how do I merge the two in order to build a garage? This house is very important to me, and I'm trying to beautify the neighborhood by doing both the garden on the north side and on the south side of this building, and put a lot of effort into it. I can show you photos of that if you'd like, because I've had landscape designers come out and do drawings for me. In addition, sure. Really? This is the actual property as it exists today. Whoops. That's not good. As it exists today, and this is the lot that we're speaking of. It was title free, title clear, and I purchased it directly from the people who owned the bar and this lot, which used to formerly have a home on it that they took down. I don't know what the password for the city is. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I thought you had it in a different format. Password. Yeah, that was good for point records.
Okay. So I do have a planning map of what I'm trying to do. As you see the property today for the existing building, this is concrete, total. This has nothing on it but gravel. So what I'm trying to do is create more green space to equalize out the fact that the property lines of this property are exactly coordinated to the property itself. There is no additional land. I feel like since it's 13th Street and it's trying to be revitalized, I'm willing to make the investment to do this, as I have with the interior of the building of the house and the exterior. So currently it shows a garage here. However, financially, this house is by far in the value way exceeds the other homes in the neighborhood. Putting a garage here was going to be $100,000, and I just couldn't do that in terms of the equity of getting it ever back based on the other homes in the neighborhood, even though they're nice homes and they keep them up well. So I moved it so that it would actually sit adjacent to the home but back from it. So there's already a cutout off of Garfield Street that would go right into the garage. So it would not be attached to the home as I previously wanted, because I thought that would be, really great to have this like garage there where you had open windows to look out and have friends over for galleries and stuff like that on weekends. But the idea being, I'm trying to improve this lot. And if you know what Starsky's looks like today, which has been sat empty for 12 years, just rotting, I think I'm just trying to add more to the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard on items 11 and 12? Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Palermo.
Yeah, sir, I'd just like to say welcome to the neighborhood. We have a couple other buildings around there if you're interested. I need some more.
I've got, it's 3,200 square feet plus a basement that's not finished. So I think I've got my hands full right this second. But
Well, when you're done.
okay, no problem, no problem. I mean, this is a true joy. I mean, I grew up in Nebraska, but when I worked, I then worked all over the world and moved to Europe for 20 years. So coming back home, I knew I couldn't do a standard home. I knew I needed something out of the box because it's just, you know, you can't live in cities like Paris and London and get used to being in that conventional framed home. So that's why I chose it. But also I bought the land to develop it because the city was concerned about the green space. And I'm like, I have no problem with green space. I don't particularly want a yard, but you want trees, bushes, I'm fine. So I think it'll be nice.
Yeah, move to approve.
Moved and seconded to approve items 11 and 12. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 11 and 12 are approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Items 13 and 14 relate to the same project. Item 13, an ordinance to rezone the property located at 4803 Northwest Radial Highway from GC District to CC District. Item 14, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC Overlay District to incorporate into that district the property located at 4803 Northwest Radial Highway. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items numbers 13 and 14 are today. Proponents, please.
Hello, Lawrence Butler, 4803 Northwest Radio Highway, here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. So this area is right on the edge of our districts with Councilman Gray, and this has been a rather lengthy meeting already, but I just want to say thank you to Mr. Butler for what he's doing here, and want everybody to know this is about a $2.8 million reinvestment at 48th Northwest Radial, the old Hinky Dinky store. So it's got some historical renovation to it, and also historic tax credits, I believe, involved in the project.
Yes.
I was there on Friday. I think I must have just missed you, but work is already underway and looking great. And even more important than that is, I think, the neighborhood's welcoming arms towards your neighborhood grocery store and your ice cream shop, and of course the dance studio too. So a great combination of uses. And I just want to thank you for your reinvestment in the neighborhood.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for the compliment.
You bet. So now we have two items here today. Then we have the actual TIF agreement coming on November 21st. But strongly in support of them, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second, let me add to that. I've been hearing stories about the ice cream, so I guess I'm going to have to get by there and check it out at some point. My wife and all of her folks have already had it and swear by it, and so I'm the only one who hasn't had any yet, so I'll be seeing you soon.
Yeah, we'll have goat's milk gelato ready for you, sheep's milk ice cream, along with the grass-fed ice cream offerings that we have. So it is very, very outstanding.
Oh, my goodness. I might be there all day. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to, Mr. Pauls.
Just to let you know that I've been there. It's good.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve items 13 and 14. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 13 and 14 are approved 7-0. Item 15, an ordinance to rezone the property located at 928 South 72nd Street from GI District to CC District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Second, roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 15 is approved 7-0. Item 16, an application to consider a Class C liquor license for SOS Bowling LLC, doing business as Sempex Bowling and Entertainment, located at 3375 Oakview Drive.
Public hearing on agenda item number 16 is today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members, my name is Don Pistello. I'm here on behalf of SOS Bowling LLC. We're seeking the approval of a Class C license at 3375 Oakview Drive. Mr. Simpek, the owner and manager, is here to answer any questions the council may have. I'd urge the approval of the application.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion? Oh, there is? Oh, Mr. Harding.
I just wanted to welcome to the neighborhood. It seems like Sempec Bowling is almost redundant for what you've done with the community and bowling. But any changes to the facility?
No, nothing major. Just we've been in the bowling business for 30 years in Omaha, and a few years back I thought I might want to try something different after working nights and weekends. But I tell people the bowling business is the same as chicken pox and luggage. Once you have either, you never get rid of it. And so we're just happy to do all the same programs that we've done out in Elkhorn all those years, and just going to try it at another location, which I think it's a great location. There's other businesses filling those vacant buildings on either side of us, so I think it's going to be really good.
Thanks. Move to approve.
Second. Ms. Melton.
I just wanted to say thanks, because it's best birthday party place, even for the parents. It's actually enjoyable when your kids have their birthday party there. I've always had a great experience, so thanks.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded to approve item 16. No lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 16 is approved, 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 17, an application to consider a Class C liquor license for Steak and Vine, Inc., doing business as Steak and Grapes, located at 6920 Wright Plaza, number 118.
Public hearing agenda item number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Mark Kitson, 12568 Yates Street.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Moved and seconded to approve item 17. There are no lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 17 is approved, 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 18, an application to consider a Class I liquor license for Grandmothers, Inc., doing business as Don and Millie's, located at 16130 Evans Street.
Public hearing agenda item number 18 is today. Proponents, please.
Members of the council, my name is Dean Rasmussen. I'm president of Grandmothers, Inc., doing business as Don and Millie's. I also have with me here today Amber Mazio, who will be our manager of our new Don and Millie's on 162nd and Maple. She's been managing our restaurants for several years and is very qualified in terms of understanding the importance of having a liquor license in the restaurant and abiding by the law. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Moved and seconded to approve item 18. No lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem. Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 18 is approved, 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 19, an application to consider a Class I liquor license for Kindeer at the Benson Theater, doing business as Benson Theater, located at 6058 Maple Street.
Public hearing on agenda item number 19 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Amy Hanson-Ryan, 8844 North 83rd Avenue. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. Gray. I just wanted to acknowledge the project we're talking about here today, which is the Benson Theater Project, a major renovation of a historic theater right in the middle of Benson, and it'll be a great fit for the ongoing progress we have there happening in the business district. And I wanted to give Amy a chance to talk a little bit more about that and the status of it and where it goes from here.
Thank you. The Benson Theater at 6058 Maple was a vaudeville theater in 1923, so currently we're raising funds to have a complete restoration of that building. We've raised $1.6 million so far. We have 1.2 to go before we start construction. In the meantime, we've subleased 6058 Maple, which is this liquor license application. And we'll be using it for our programming, for rental, for nonprofit organizations, businesses, and corporations to have educational programming, creative performance, and private events.
It's a good summary, and we thank you for your work. It'll be a tremendous addition to the business district, and I know you'll get it done.
Thank you, Pete.
As well as all of the supporters you have here today, so thanks for being here. Motion approved.
Moved and seconded to approve item 19. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 19 is approved, 7-0. Item 20, an application to consider a Class D liquor license for MS Petroleum LLC, doing business as NP Mart, located at 5608 Ames Avenue.
Public hearing agenda item number 20 is today. Proponents, please.
Ashad Nazir, 16962 Polk Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68135. Someone have questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard?
Reverend Portia Cabot, Clare Memorial United Methodist Church, 5544 Ames Avenue. I'm just coming to say that I am keeping a watchful eye on the neighborhood at from 52nd to 72nd and Ames. The church sits at 55th, right on the corner across the street. Noticed that we did not have to be informed of the change of ownership, but wanted to just come before this council to say that we are just looking. I look forward to meeting the owner and having a conversation with him, since I'm right across the street, and this was probably the only way that I would learn of him. I learned of the change of the property, that it was being sold because some people lost their jobs working at the gas station. But I also just want to say, since I'm keeping a watchful eye, that the last time I was before you was regarding the Asian Family Mart at 4916 Ames Avenue, that you granted them access because of ethnic means. And so I just want to let you know that they did receive a failed to compliance check and was cited for selling to a minor on April the 1st of this year, as well as they pleaded guilty, and that case went before the Liquor Control Commission today. So I'm not sure what happened to that, and they are up for renewal in April of 2018. So as the watchful eye, I am looking. I did bring you pictures of their aisles of the liquor that they sell that is not ethnic. So for the record, I would like to submit that, if it can be, that you would know what you did approve last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. And again, what's your name?
Ashad.
Ashad, let me ask you a question. And I don't know how the vote is going to go today, and I'm really not sure what I'm going to do yet. But I do want to ask you: would you be in favor of, or would you be willing to sell, when you sell your beer, if you sold it in 6-packs or whatever they came in?
No,
as
the thing is, it's already a running gas station, and we already made the transition because the state already approved us a temporary operating permit. So the thing is, I already invested and took it over, and we almost, you can swing by, it's your district.
Yes.
We almost changed everything in it. The floor is changed. You know, it was a really, really old building. And for me, for your record, I have a gas station, Mr. Festerson's district, I think it's on 52nd and Radial, the BP there.
The BP there, yes.
I have a gas station, it's a different entity, different LLC. So I have a gas station on 30th and Ames, the big gym. So
Yes.
you might know. We're running a really nice and clean operation. You know, even the old owner never had any problems there. So, but for me, we already have a TOP. And, for me to backing off on anything is just going to be losing almost $500,000.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you the question,
No,
and I do appreciate the fact that because I know you did take over the big gyms,
Yep.
and there was an issue there with that police were concerned about early on, but you worked with them really well, and I appreciate
Even
the
I have
fact
a
that you
security
worked with them.
person there at night.
and
He does a really good job.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm appreciative of that. So
Thank you.
just wanted you to know that, and I just wanted to ask you the question. Probably going to vote in support of it since it's just a license change. But I would encourage you to just be mindful of what goes on around that area, and
Thank you,
recognize the sensitivity in the community that people have about the number of liquor licenses in the area. And I'm a little upset with Asian Market because they came in here and told the council one thing and then they did something else. But that's them, and I'll deal with that
And
at another point.
Sorry to interrupt you. She have a concern about the employees. Even I kept all the employees they had. The thing was, when the ownership changed, the old owner, some employees he didn't want you to meet, but even they came back. most of them I hired them back, and we are redoing a lot of things in there, so it's still under construction. You can consider it, because we just doing the flooring and stuff. As soon as the things opens up and everybody's back, so nobody lost the job.
I'll come by and see you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. With that, Mr. Festus.
Thanks, Mr. President. I would also just add, I find that concerning about the Asian market, and I think, join you in voting against that at the time. So possibly the law committee has to look into what's happening there. But secondly, I'd just say that the only other thing that's a bit concerning is that you didn't reach out to Reverend Cavett. So I would ask you that you do that. If this
I would love to meet them, and they're my neighborhood. My business relies on them. I'm nothing without the neighborhood, And I'm sorry, I didn't knew that they're like, yes, church there or something like that. I know there was but I didn't know that they have some concern or anything.
Okay. And you're already operating, I think, under the temporary operating permit.
Yes, we already been operating since last week.
Yeah.
The state issued me like 10 days ago. So
yeah, but I still encourage you to do that even after
I
the
will
meeting
do
today.
that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, appreciate it.
Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion? Second. Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 20. There are no lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 20 is approved, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Item 21, an application to consider a Class K liquor license for Robert J. Rudar Jr., LLC, doing business as Jerry's Bar, 6301 Military Avenue.
Public hearing agenda item number 21 is today. Proponents, please.
Afternoon. Robert John Reuter Jr., 5623 Whitmore, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Just here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Moved and seconded to approve item 21. No lights. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Pauls. Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 21 is approved, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items numbers 22 through 25 were held on October 31st, 2017. We are going to remove item number 22, so we'll be voting on items 23, 24, and 25. The motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve items 23 through 25. No lights. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 23 to 25 are approved, 7-0. Item 22, an ordinance approving a redevelopment and tax increment financing loan agreement with Dwayne Dowd and Nicholas 16 Group, LLC, to implement the Hub Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 1605 Nicholas Street in an amount up to $300,000.
We've already had the public hearing. Is there a motion? Second. Is moved and seconded to approve item 22. There are no lights. Roll call.
Harding.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Harding. Councilmember Harding passed due to a potential conflict of interest. Item 22 is approved, 6-0.
The public hearing on agenda items numbers 26 through 40 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Wasn't quite ready. Luis Jimenez, 3126 Chicago Street. Proponent for item 33. The mayor's asking for additional sum for the lagoon, the Fontenelle Park, and I think this is a great thing for the community. There's going to be fishes put in, catch and release. The ducks, once it's finished, the ducks will return. Some greenery, so it's a very nice break from all the cracks in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded to approve items 26 through 40. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Harding. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Pauls. Palermo. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 26 through 40 are approved, 7-0. Item 41, an ordinance approving a real estate purchase agreement with Holy Name Housing Corporation to convey the property located at 5918 South 50th Street and 3602-3606 Maple Street in consideration of $1.
Public hearing agenda item number 41 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 42, an ordinance approving the agreement between Omaha Public Library and Unique Management Services, Inc. to provide delinquent account collection and materials recovery services for Omaha Public Library for long overdue library materials for a 2-year period with options to renew for one additional 1-year period in an anticipated amount of $45,000 per year.
Public hearing agenda item number 42 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 43, an ordinance to accept the bid of Aramark Uniform Services to provide linen and towels for the Omaha Fire Department for a weekly cost of $340 and total annual cost of $17,680, with the City of Omaha parties having the option to extend the agreement monthly for an additional 24-month period.
Public hearing agenda item number 43 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 44, an ordinance to accept the bid from Waste Connections of Nebraska for rubbish container service at various Omaha Police Department facilities in an annual bid amount of $15,929.68.
Public hearing agenda item number 44 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 45, an ordinance to approve an agreement with Aon Risk Services Central, Inc. to provide broker services to the City of Omaha for 1 year with an option to extend for additional years for the purposes of procuring insurance for various city properties in an annual fee of $65,000.
Public hearing agenda item number 45 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 46, an ordinance to approve and execute an agreement with Emeritus Life Insurance Corporation to provide administrative services for the city's self-insured dental plan for a period of 36 months commencing on January 1, 2018 and ending on December 31st, 2020 with 2 additional 1-year city options.
Public hearing agenda item number 46 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Non-action items, items 47 through 55, do not require a public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on the agenda for consideration.
Motion adjourned. Roll call.
Harding. Yes. Jerem.
Yes.
Melton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Palermo. Yes. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 3:31 p.m.